Hey, welcome to the Empowered and Free podcast. My name is Erin Kimbrell, and I'm a counselor, certified life coach, breathwork coach, and small town mom of two. I know firsthand what it feels like to live with high functioning anxiety. For most of my life, I had so much mental mess, anxiety, people pleasing, perfectionism, overthinking, constant worrying, and never feeling good enough. On my decade-long journey to feeling better, I've learned how to take back my life from high-functioning anxiety and helped others to do the same through my coaching and breathwork programs. Now I want to share everything I know with you. This podcast will help you feel empowered over your high-functioning anxiety and free to finally live the life of your dreams. Now, grab a cup of coffee, get comfy, and dive into the episode. I'm Erin Kimbrell, and this is the Empowered and Free podcast. Hey, friend. All right, I have my cup of coffee substitute, I guess we could call it. And let's talk today about the vicious cycle of anxiety explained. Okay, here's what I believe about anxiety. It is not as complex as we make it feel or as we think it is. And so really all you need to do is learn some basic understanding of how it works to help yourself. This is the key, right? When we think that it is some big scary thing that we're never going to conquer because it is so multi-layered, then we get all in our head. It gets way too complicated. We get overwhelmed and we shut down. So my goal here on the Empowered and Free podcast is to help you understand, to help you realize that you absolutely can live a life with less anxiety. Let's break down that vicious cycle of anxiety today. So the anxiety cycle starts with an anxiety trigger. What is the trigger? What is the thing that makes you feel anxious? This could be something that happens to you. This could be a situation that you are going into that you maybe don't want to go into because for whatever reason, it feels dangerous. It feels scary. All of your anxious thoughts flood in. You get tons of worry, tons of fear, overwhelm, panic. Okay. You know what I'm talking about. And then all of those anxious thoughts that have flooded your brain become feelings, they become emotions, and they hit your body. And then you notice it in your body. So just think about what your body symptoms of anxiety are. Maybe it's a heavy chest, maybe it's shaking. Maybe some of you imagine going straight into a panic attack. Maybe you feel like your mind blanks out. Maybe you feel like you can't breathe. Like there's so many dozens of symptoms that we could talk about. And maybe on one episode of the podcast, I'll talk about those. If you want me to do that, let me know. So first, it all starts with that trigger. What's the thing that feels scary, that makes you nervous, that makes you worried? What is the trigger? The event, the situation, the person, place, or thing? And I want to also make a note here. It could be the anticipation of that thing. I talked about that a lot in our last episode, how a lot of anxiety is the anticipation of something coming up. So step one is the trigger. Then we move on to what happens, your behavior, your choice. Okay. What do we tend to do when we're anxious? Anyone have the answer? I talked about this last episode, episode 14, what anxiety really is and why it happens. What we tend to do is an avoidant behavior. We avoid the thing as a way to avoid the anxiety. And it makes perfect sense. I gave the example last time of if you knew that there was a bear in the woods, would you go on a walk in the woods? No, most of us wouldn't. Maybe my husband would because, well, that's a story for another day. But he's a hunter and he loves adventure and like he's all game for that. He would probably pay to go into the woods with a bear. But most of us, especially those who are kind of on the side of feeling a little bit anxious, would choose to avoid the thing that felt scary, that felt overwhelming, or that filled us with fear. So the second part of the anxiety cycle is our behavior, which is typically an avoidant behavior. And again, why are we doing this? To avoid, to help control the way we feel, to help us keep us safe, to keep us calm, to keep us grounded, all of those things. So then step 3 of the anxiety cycle is that we feel short-term relief. We're like, oh, yes, like we avoided that thing that made us so worried, that made us so nervous. Feels so much better, right? That short-term relief that, oh, like I can breathe, everything's okay. I don't have to do that thing. And then the last step in the anxiety cycle is that the anxiety grows bigger in the long term. Initially, like I said, we get that short-term relief. The problem is that when we avoid, the brain learns that if we avoid that situation, the problems go away. And so that anxiety just grows and grows and grows. And so now what we start to believe is, oh my gosh, I can never do that thing. So let me give you some examples to break this down because I'm talking just, I'm talking in what's the word? Like theoretical uh, explanation right now. So let's talk about examples because I like practical. I like to understand, and I'm sure you do too. So I have worked with a lot of clients who are terrified. They are anxious about driving a car, about flying on an airplane, about going in public. Like all of these things cause a lot of anxiety for my clients. So you can choose any of those examples. For simplicity, I'm just going to think of driving a car. Or you can think of your example, what situation kind of brings about that anxiety for you. So in this situation, the first step, the anxiety trigger would be driving a car. Whether it is in that very moment, somebody says, hey, hop in the driver's seat, or you know that, in 2 days, you need to drive your car to go take your kid to this event, take your kid to school, whatever it is, go to this appointment. So the anxiety trigger is driving the car. When that situation happens, all of those anxious thoughts flood your mind, they flood your body, and you are just kind of in this panic state, right? So we move to the behavior. What are you going to do in that moment? Like I mentioned, a lot of times anxiety makes us avoid. So you avoid driving the car. You don't do it. You find somebody else to go, somebody else to take you or to drive. So then step number 3 is leads to that short-term relief. So you're like, whew, got out of that one. Don't have to do that anymore. You feel some relief. And then step number 4, the anxiety grows bigger in the long term. What happens when you don't drive a car? You've built it up to now this big thing. And then you find that it's been weeks, months, years since you have done that thing, since you've driven a car. And in your mind, it's become this huge thing, this huge mountain that you can't overcome. And that's the anxiety cycle, the vicious cycle, and how that anxiety grows bigger in the long term because we're avoiding the thing. I want to give you a different example, more of a high functioning anxiety example. Let's say that you are overwhelmed. You've got way too much going on. You're stretched too thin. You're stressed out. Like you are just glitching out. There's too much happening. And there's this one big project that you really need to finish. It's kind of hanging over your head. You're feeling the weight of that project and you're stressed about that thing. So let's start with the anxiety trigger. What is the trigger? Well, the trigger is that project, that thing that you're avoiding. Okay. So when you think about that thing, when you think about that project, you know what kind of thoughts you're thinking. You know how that feels in your body. You probably all of a sudden feel like you can't breathe when you're thinking about that. So then we move to that behavior. What do? You avoid it. You put it off till tomorrow. And I am preaching to the choir because I have been there more times than I can count. You push it off. You just think, I can't even do anything. A lot of times we shut down even too. Like maybe you go take a nap or you go do something completely different, like clean your closet instead of actually doing the thing that you need to do. Again, can you tell I'm passionate about this because I've been there and was there even recently. Okay. Then that's step number 3 in the short-term relief. You're like, whew, okay. Don't have to do the project today. Don't have to approach that huge thing that feels like so overwhelming that I can't even do. And then step number 4 is that anxiety grows bigger in the long term. So you just feel like, how can I even start? It feels too big to tackle right now. And we just continue to push it off, push it off, push it off. And that anxiety just grows and grows and grows. And we just kind of carry that weight on our shoulders for days, weeks, months until we actually do the thing. So my friend, you need to understand the cycle to be able to break the cycle. What we don't know, we can't fix, right? So my big nugget of wisdom that I want you to take here is that avoidance, avoiding the thing, only reinforces anxiety behavior. It just keeps the cycle going. As I told you guys, this is not a shame, blame game. I am the number one avoider, pro avoider here. But when I learned what avoidance really was, when I noticed that, oh my goodness, I do this every single day, pretty much in some way, shape, or form, then I had some awareness and I was like, oh, I can fix this. And I love hearing you guys and your breakthroughs that you share. I had someone reach out about a previous episode and just said that this was a big light bulb moment that I mentioned. And she said, I didn't realize like how much I was avoiding things. And it helped her actually put some awareness to that and then take a step. That's what I want from you here. I want you taking steps, action taking steps. This is a huge reason I created my program, Empowered and Free from Anxiety, because I want to help you do exactly this. Break down anxiety into bite-sized, understandable pieces so that you can take action, so that you live a life with less anxiety. I'm going to drop a little bit more information about Empowered and Free right now. So take a listen to that and then come back as we slow down that anxiety cycle into a timeline even more and help you get some more understanding. Friend, I know you're tired of anxiety controlling your life. You're tired of that tight grip that it seems to have on you. You're tired of letting anxiety hold you back from the life you want to live. I know that your deepest fears, worries, and regrets keep you up at night. I know that you constantly think you're a failure. I know that you beat yourself up every single time you make a mistake. And I even know about those worst case scenario thoughts that flood your brain all the time. You can't seem to turn off that part of you that is always overthinking a situation, always planning, always controlling and perfecting. And I know you're tired of believing all of those negative thoughts running rampant in your head every single day. Well, I think I have a solution that could help. Empowered and Free from Anxiety will help you take back your one and only precious life from anxiety. You'll finally learn how to feel less anxious, how to live your life as that carefree version of yourself that you used to be. You'll learn how to release control, how to be present, how to be mindful in those little moments in life that you can't get back. You'll have energy, joy, excitement again for life. And you'll finally go for those secret goals that you've been too scared to share with anyone else. You'll feel confident in yourself. You'll feel proud of who you are, and you'll know you're good enough exactly as you are. And that's all because of the step-by-step process that you'll learn inside of Empowered and Free from Anxiety to take back your life. I created this program as a way to help people who are where I once was, people who are ready to feel better, people who are tired of struggling with high-functioning anxiety. The Empowered and Free program will help you finally learn how to feel free from your anxiety. And here's how we do it. I'll walk you through a simple step-by-step process that will help you take action against your anxiety without the overwhelm. I break down exactly how to heal your anxiety into bite-sized pieces. I walk you through my proven method that will help you know exactly what to do if you have an anxious thought. And I do all of this by teaching you the right tools for your anxiety. When you finish Empowered and Free from Anxiety, you'll leave with a toolbox of tools, and you'll feel confident on how and when exactly to use them. But even deeper than that, I teach you how to get to the root of your anxiety to heal from those things that caused you to feel anxious in the first place. What happens here is you feel a baseline of peace, calm, safety from within, so that anxiety doesn't have that control over you that it once had. And as a result, you feel lighter, happier, and relaxed. This program was created with you in mind. I promise you, I know you're busy. I am too. We don't have time to waste. You don't have years in therapy trying to figure out why you're anxious. You need something that's to the point, that's concise, and that is effective. I know you want to see that difference in your life fast, and that's exactly what I deliver inside of Empowered and Free from Anxiety. Let's get into the nitty-gritty. The doors open March 13th through March 17th, 2023. And our first session is on March 19th. Let's get going, right? There are only 20 spots, so make sure you get in first if this is right for you. If you're ready to follow a simple step-by-step process that's proven to help you feel less anxious, if you're ready to live life as that carefree version of yourself again, and if you're ready to finally enjoy this one and only beautiful life that we have, as that happier, lighter, more relaxed version of you, then make sure you join us. Do not miss this opportunity. I'm honestly not sure when I'm going to open up this again. And so you need to hop in if this is calling to you. Here's the reality, my friend. You could be living a life with less anxiety by the summertime. Who doesn't want that, right? If you are ready to join us, if you want to get in as soon as you can, head to erinKimbrell.com/free to claim one of those 20 spots. I am here for you all the way. I am rooting for you. I am ready for you to live a life with less anxiety. And I cannot wait to have you inside of Empowered and Free from Anxiety. I'll see you soon. So I told you we were going to take that anxiety cycle and slow it down even more. Okay. That was kind of the basic. And now we're going just a little bit deeper. If you take that cycle of anxiety and you notice what happens in between the trigger and the behavior. So that's step 1 and step 2, right? Notice what happens in between the trigger and the behavior, AKA the avoidance. Here's what happens between there. So we have that trigger and then we have the behavior. And remember, the behavior is typically an avoidance behavior. Between the trigger and the behavior, there are a few things that happen. We have the trigger, whatever that trigger was for you, whether it's driving a car, whether it was that big work presentation, going in public, whatever it was, you have the trigger. Then you have a thought. An anxious thought enters your mind. And what happens? You believe it. You think it's true. You don't even question that it could possibly maybe not be true. And so we believe that thought immediately. And this happens in milliseconds, guys. You're not even aware that this is happening, especially if feeling anxious is something that you've been struggling with for a while, which most of you have. That's why you're here. So you have that thought, and then immediately, boom, you have those feelings in your body. You feel that panic, like I talked about in the earlier example. Okay. So whatever those feelings are for you, you probably know them, or maybe you don't. Because maybe, like I said, this anxiety is just so constant. It's an everyday thing for you. It's overwhelming and you just shut down immediately. So a couple of things, like I said, happen in between the trigger and the behavior. And it's your thoughts, it's your feelings. And then what do? We move on to that avoidance. So when you can slow it down a little bit more, even from that cycle that I mentioned earlier, and you can notice what's happening, then you have the power to make some changes here. You can change the thoughts in the mind, which in turn changes the feelings in the body. You can also help your body regulate. And again, these are all things I teach inside of Empowered and Free from Anxiety. And what happens? The behavior changes. The behavior changes. My friends, it is not about only behavior change here. That is not an effective way to actually make change. Think about this. How many times have you actually willed yourself into doing something? For me, a prime example of something I've struggled with my whole life is my weight, my body. When I have just said, I'm just going to do this diet and I don't care what it takes. And how long does that actually last? How much am I just forcing and pushing through? True change does not just come from behavior change. And you can hear in the cycle, there's a few other things that happen before that behavior change can happen. We have to break down. We have to notice what our triggers are. We have to notice what thoughts we have in our mind, and we get to notice what feelings we have so that we can calm the body. There's so much more happening here that you're probably not even aware of. Okay. So when we do these things, that avoidant behavior stops. You're no longer trying to survive. When we're in a state of anxiety, we're typically in a survival state. Your body is only looking to survive. Remember, I talked about this last episode, episode 14, what anxiety really is. And I talked about the brain. The brain's job is survival. So of course, the brain is on full panic alert, trying to just simply survive. We can break this anxiety cycle. And here's exactly what happens. When you're no longer trying to avoid that anxiety, it doesn't continue to grow in the long term. So this is exactly what we do together inside of Empowered and Free. We work by breaking the cycle of anxiety and avoidance. I really encourage clients to kind of take baby steps to face the source of whatever their anxieties are. And it has this incredible outcome where they feel empowered and free. That's the whole point of the name of the program. You feel empowered. You know that anxiety doesn't have that control over you anymore. And you feel free from all of those things that held you down in the beginning. So when you face that anxiety head on, it eventually shrinks. You're able to move through life with so much ease, so much joy, happiness, fulfillment. It is all there for you. I am telling you, I need you to join Empowered and Free from Anxiety so you can feel the difference in your life too. I am reaching out my hand. I would love to have you join us. Please consider it. Send me a message if you have any questions. I would love to support you, friend. I hope this episode on the vicious cycle of anxiety was enlightening and helped you understand yourself a little bit deeper. Have a wonderful day, friends. I'll see you next time. Hey, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. You don't know how much it means to me. If you'd like more behind the scenes content, inspiration, and daily reminders that encourage and uplift you, follow me on Instagram at heyerinkimbrell and send me a DM to say hey. If any of the episodes have been super helpful for you, please consider leaving me a review on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you like to listen. It helps me so incredibly much, and it allows the podcast to be seen by other people who need it. If you want to learn more from me, head to erinnkimbrell.com. That's where you'll find all my free resources, read the podcast show notes, and learn more information about my online coaching and breathwork programs that help you create the life you want. If you want to keep the conversation going from today's episode, join us in our exclusive podcast Facebook community, Empowered and Free, Help for High Functioning Anxiety. I'm here for you, and I'm always cheering you on. I'll see you next time. I'm Erin Kimbrell, and this is the Empowered and Free podcast.